the Sabbath day. I want to correct something that people from all Christian denominations don't understand because they don't have an interest in theology. So this isn't just against the LDS church. It's against my own church. However, there is a bondage that's tied to the LDS church that separates it from the Christian Protestant church. And I'm going to discuss that today. In the LDS church, your worthiness and your salvation is tied to yet another type of bondage. This bondage is known as the Sabbath day, condemnation. There are many issues regarding this Sabbath and the way the LDS view its meaning and purpose. There is one day and one Sabbath day only, Saturday, not Sunday. The word Sabbath, as translated from Hebrews, means rest. Rest meaning God completed his work, creating the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested. What people don't understand is that they'll run right over the scripture. They run right over the word rest because they don't understand it. Rest meaning God completed his work, creating the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested. He was not tired, but he rested from his work. He laid his work to rest. Unless, of course, you think God gets tired and he needs to take a nap or something. I don't, personally. I don't think that God gets tired. In Genesis 2:2-3, it talks about God completing his work in 6 days and resting on the seventh, which was a Saturday. The Sabbath day was not instituted at this time. Adam and Eve did not observe a Sabbath day. Moses wrote the book of Genesis in retrospect, meaning after the events took place, and that is why the word Sabbath is mentioned in the book of Genesis. Nehemiah 9:13-14 explains the laws of the Sabbath and when it came to pass. The fourth commandment clearly states, keep the Sabbath. But I ask you, what is the context of this commandment now? What is the context of this commandment in the New Testament and in the Old Testament? And have you compared the two? Hebrews 8 verse 13 says, the covenant of this law was completed and the new covenant was formed. Talking about grace. People or leaders try to take this old covenant and apply it to their religion today over the new covenant. And the punishment for such an act will fall on them, as it will on false teachers. So how do we honor the covenant of grace through faith in Jesus Christ? By understanding that all the commandments of the old have been amplified through Christ and his teachings. Example, Christ said, do not even look at a woman with lust in your heart, for you have already committed adultery, and you are an adulterer. Another example, it says, do not even think of killing your brother, for you have already committed murder in your heart, and you are a murderer. It is no longer the act of breaking the commandments that the thought of it as well finds you guilty under God. As we know, God judges you by your heart, not just by the acts you commit. In the Old Testament, the Sabbath is said to be perpetual. Perpetual. But so is circumcision, burnt offerings, tithing, and dietary lay. So are we supposed to still hold true to these laws as we do the Sabbath? Are we supposed to still offer burnt offerings to the Lord? No, we don't even have temples anymore, unless I guess you're Mormon. Hebrews clearly states that the Old Testament was good, but the New Testament is better. Hebrews 8:6 says better covenant, better promises. Example, pen and paper or computer and printer. Galatians 4:4-5 says the old covenant was fulfilled after his coming and death. Then the new covenant was put into play. That was just a summarization. That's not actually verbatim of how it says it in the Bible. As for a proof, on the seventh day God rested and his work was finished. When the veil was ripped into Christ's work was finished. The law was fulfilled. You see the parallel there? More rest will come, Jesus says. Come unto me, all ye who are heavily laden, and I will give you rest. Galatians 2:16-17 says, "Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink, or in respect of a in respect of a holiday, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ." Remember, in the Bible, there were many parts in obeying the Sabbath. There were not only weekly or monthly Sabbath day rituals, but also yearly. Then on the 49th year, the Jews took the year off. All of these things were done to keep in the honor of the Sabbath day. If the Jews did not obey the Sabbath day in its entirety, they were put into captivity by the Lord for a year or so. For a year, so that the land was given its due time to rest. Many people were also put to death for not obeying or breaking the Sabbath. Jesus Christ himself was persecuted for these very matters. Question: knowing now what you know, are you keeping the Sabbath? Of course not, because you don't completely know or understand what it means to keep the Sabbath day. Let me elaborate a little bit on what I just said. In the Old Testament, when they're keeping the Sabbath day, as I mentioned, it wasn't just one day out of the week was a Sabbath day. There were monthly Sabbath day rituals and yearly, and then of course the 49-year or every 7-year Sabbath days. In the 49th year, they stopped and they let the land rest for an entire year. So the people got to rest, as did the land. That was the law of the Sabbath day. It wasn't just keep my Sabbath day, which is the seventh day. That was not how it was enunciated in the Old Testament. It was everything that went along with it. So today, are you keeping the Sabbath day? Of course you're not. You're not doing those things. You're not letting your land rest every 50 years. You're not, doing it monthly or we're just doing it weekly and not even on the right day. And the church decided to change it from Saturday to Sunday because of the points I just brought forth. And Sunday better fit. It was a big thing. It was really hard to convince the Christians to move that day. It was a big deal, and I can't really elaborate on it because I didn't study it enough, but I did study enough to know that the transition was huge. As for work in the Bible that was done on the Sabbath day, that Jesus worked on the Sabbath day, and if you want to say that he broke his own commandment, then so be it. But I remind you that he said, "I did not come to break your laws, I came to fulfill them." So you can read in Acts 2:7, John 20, and Acts 2:1. Sunday is not the Sabbath day, but Sunday is still a great day for Christians as a time when we honor God. But to say that Sunday you are honoring the Sabbath, you are mocking the truth. Not honoring the Sabbath meant immediate prosecution and the Roman Empire's capital punishment, death. There were many upon many rules and regulations that had to be met in order to keep the Sabbath. You cannot in good conscience say, "Yes, I obey the Sabbath," because it is a mockery. Every commandment has been expanded by Christ in the new covenant, including keeping the Sabbath day holy. As far as the Sabbath day goes, I hope that this video was useful to you. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you comment. I hope if you haven't subscribed, I hope that you do. Thank you for watching. God bless.